And the glazing continues. The entire 2023-2024 Vancouver Canucks season was filled with excitement. It was filled with joy. It was filled with surprises and a lot of people really opening their eyes around the NHL as to how good Vancouver's captain really is. Quinn Hughes, everybody, in his first season as the Vancouver Canucks captain, put up a Norris-winning season. And we're going to have to get used to saying that, baby. Vancouver's very first and only Norris winner comes in the form of the current captain, Quinn Hughes, who had 92 points in 82 games played. My goodness, what a machine. And in this video, what I wanted to do was go over to an article published on The Athletic. This was made by Peter Bowe and Eric Duhacek. It is the Hockey Hall of Fame tiers. Which active NHL players are on course for induction? This was published 3 days ago, or 2 days ago, excuse me, and it will be linked in the description if you want to go ahead and read it yourself. Essentially, the article is pretty self-explanatory. It goes throughout current NHL players and discusses whom amongst them will be Hall of Famers. It talks about how some guys, if they retired today, they're Hall of Famers. Ovi, Sid, McDavid, Malkin, Kane, you know the like. A lot of these guys, they are probably already good enough to make the Hall. Then it goes over into other territories, guys that are pretty much on pace to getting there, like if they continue the way they have been, and if they just have a few more strong years, they'll probably make it. Guys that are on pace to maybe doing that, but who are a little bit younger, therefore we're going to have to wait and see. So there are 5 tiers of guys that are listed in this article, but what I wanted to do was go over to the conversation on Quinn Hughes, because this was indeed brought up in the piece, and it was one of the conversations that I think is noteworthy to talk about. But because The Athletic is paid for material, we're going over on CanucksDaily.com because Cooper Godin goes out there and uses the Quinn Hughes argument in the Athletic piece and talks about it here on what is a free public website. So let's go out there and talk about this piece right here. Quinn Hughes and the Hall of Fame analysts gave an interesting take. The article cites the Bowe and Duhacek tier list that they have for Hall of Fame eligibility players. Tier 1, they could retire today and make it. Tier 2, right on the cusp. Tier 3, outside shots. Tier 4, on track. And Tier 5, check back in a few years. For Vancouver Canucks captain Quinn Hughes, he was placed in the 5th tier, check back in a few years. And here's what Bowe and Duhacek had to say about him. Hughes, still only 24, won his first Norris Trophy this past season after collecting 92 points. He already established himself as one of the league's top defensemen and would arguably go number 1 in a redo of the 2018 draft. And you know, I never thought I'd see the day. This is where I start talking about my experience as a hockey YouTuber. Do I want to say that? Yeah, YouTuber? Yeah, no, content creator. I don't know, whichever one sounds nicer in your opinion. But if you've been following this channel for long enough, you will probably recognize that 2018 is a really important year for me. I say this all the time I have the opportunity to say it, but 2018 was my senior year of high school. I ended up having the best academic year of my life. I had the best social year of my life. And then I had YouTube. 2017-18 is when I really started taking things seriously. I would make a Vancouver Canucks video a day. Mostly Vancouver. There were a few other videos in there of not Vancouver stuff, but it was mostly Canucks stuff, and we were talking about the prospects and the draft and how it was all looking good, and we made our videos talking about Rasmus Dahlin and how the Canucks were bad, so if they got Dahlin at number 1, or if they got Svechnikov or Zadina at 2 or 3, that would be great. But they didn't end up going number 1. The Vancouver Canucks stayed at 7th overall, and they ended up taking the guy that I had 4th overall on my draft board, I think it was, 4th or 3rd, one of the two. It was Quinn Hughes. And you can see in the reaction video when the Canucks drafted Quinn Hughes that I was absolutely ecstatic. Hey, the Vancouver Canucks just drafted the guy that I thought would have been the best player at that spot. My favorite team took arguably my favorite player of the entire draft because Quinn Hughes at that time was a nimble, mobile, amazing skater of a defenseman who projected to potentially being an elite caliber guy. Now, nobody really, in that 2017-18 year, knew that Quinn Hughes was going to be as good as he is now. Nobody thought that him and Makar would be battling it out for Norris's and points, and Adam Fox would be this good. This was like before these guys were even in the league. So, we were kind of just expecting Dahlin to be that guy. Right? He was the number 1 overall pick. He was touted as this fantastic, smooth, offensively capable, gifted defenseman from Sweden ever since he was like 15, 16 years old. I remember when he was 16, he made his debut in the SHL, and that was a really big deal. Hey, the guy who's going to go first overall in 2018 just made his debut in 2016 at the top pro men's league in Sweden, and he did not look out of place. He scored a fantastic goal in the playoffs, and he was really good, and everybody was like, yeah, Dahlin's going to be the best guy. No questions about it. If you had to make a bet as to who from the 2018 draft class would win in Norris first, a lot of people would have been like, yeah, Dahlin. It's not going to be Dobson. It's not going to be Bouchard. It's not going to be Adam Boquist. It's not going to be Quinn Hughes. It's going to be Dahlin. But now, in 2024, Quinn Hughes won the Norris. And his contract, as we had talked about a few videos ago, is roughly estimated to present about $15 million of value. His actual contract, though, it's only 7.85. So he's doing very well for himself, that Quinn Hughes, in terms of on-ice performance and his dollar amounts. But if you compare Quinn Hughes to that first overall pick in Rasmus Dahlin, things get very, very interesting. Now, I will say this. A lot of the Quinn Hughes versus Rasmus Dahlin debate is not contextualized properly. Because I'll say this, when it comes to both of these guys, their profiles are not similar at all. Their ages are the same, 24 years old, yes, but Dahlin is 6'3", 203, Quinn Hughes is 5'10", 181. The fact that Quinn Hughes is smaller was part of the reason he was even touted lower in the draft in 2018. But when you talk about point production, of course, Quinn Hughes blows Dahlin out of the water at this point. Quinn had 92 points this season, Dahlin had 59. Last year, Quinn had 76 points, Dahlin had 73, though, so a lot closer, but you do have to take into account the teams that these guys play for. Buffalo is so much worse than Vancouver, especially up front, so when it comes to opportunity and being able to gather points off of the backs of the guys that are in front of you, Quinn Hughes has that advantage tenfold over Rasmus Dahlin. If you had swapped teams, I feel like Dahlin and Hughes would present similar impacts on their teams as they do right now. It's just the magnitude of Dahlin's presence on Vancouver would be a lot more noticeable when you think about the points. Although I will say that these two guys command space on the ice in very different ways. Dahlin, I'd say, is a little bit more tricky with the passes that he makes, and Quinn Hughes is a lot more mobile and deceptive with his body language. It's really interesting noting how these two guys play different styles, but because Dahlin plays behind a team that is so much worse than Vancouver, he doesn't get the points to really keep up. If Dahlin was just on any other team, he was playing in Colorado with McKinnon, he was playing in Vancouver with Pettersson and Miller, maybe Dahlin has a 90-point season under his belt right now. Who really knows? And then the competition as well on Buffalo's D-core. Not only does he have to compete against the opposition, but he has to compete against his own teammates, Owen Power and now Bowen Byram, to get ice time. Quinn Hughes has to compete with Carson Soucy and Mark Friedman for left-handed defenseman minutes. So you can understand that there's a reason he was able to get all the minutes on the power play and get all the production as a result. Quinn Hughes has a much better opportunity, and on top of that, I do feel like he is just the better player. So yeah, I'm sorry. I had to go through the entire 9-minute segment just to say that I do think that Quinn Hughes probably is better than Dahlin. I'd say that if I were starting a franchise from scratch, just the way that Quinn can cover space, dominate the ice, and dominate the field of play, I think that is superior to the magnitude of passing finesse that Dahlin possesses, and I'd rather have Quinn on my team. I'd rather have him first overall, in fact. So, yeah, that's the commentary. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Dahlin versus Quinn Hughes and whether or not you think Quinn should have been first overall in 2018. In hindsight, maybe not at the time. Nobody would have projected him as number 1 at the time. It was always going to be Dahlin. But maybe now, we can debate whether or not it should have been different. Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on, and bye.